Thank you. And good morning again. What the Beaumont Independent School District expects is that the commissioner will follow the law. The commissioner expects the district to follow the law. The district expects that when the commissioner says this is what I'm going to do, that he will not exceed his authority under the law, under the Texas Education Code. And what we will show you today is that's exactly what he did. And in doing so, he is violating the law. He should be stopped. It's not that Beaumont ISD doesn't suggest that or argue that there are no problems with the special education. As a matter of fact, when the commissioner said, I'm going to put a monitor in for special education, they did not ask for a record review. They didn't ask for a record review because they welcomed the assistance. Fine. But what the commissioner did wrong was elevate that to a conservator in a mere 2 weeks later when nothing else happened. Nothing new had occurred to cause him to say we now need to have a conservator. I'm trying desperately not to say board of managers because, and so if I say it, I'm not arguing that today. And so that's what we will show you today, Ms. Reynolds, is that the commissioner has violated the law. With respect to Mr. Jones mentioned the 2011 TEA procurement investigation and the vendor problem in the federal court. Those are not a part of this hearing. We were never given notice that that was being used against the district. As we know, when the commissioner sends out the notice letter and says this is what's going to happen, that is in effect the pleading. That's the notice to the district that that's what they're relying on, and we've never been given notice that those issues were being used in this record review against the district. And so I do object to that. The simple fact is that, well, let me just back up. The council spent a long time talking about the thief who was the CFO and the comptroller who worked in concert together to steal money from the district. What we will show you is that this person did a lot more than merely wire transfer money. He actually took the bank statements and modified them on the computer so that no one will be able to determine that he was actually stealing money from the district for those wire transfers by concealing his effort by modifying the electronic bank statements that the district received. It wasn't just that he was wire transferring the money in that simple. It wasn't. As a matter of fact, when the district hired a finance officer to come in and reconcile the bank accounts, he recruited that person in to become a co-conspirator with him so he could continue his theft. I'll have evidence today from Kathy Mintzberg, who will testify and talk to you about the fact that if someone is going to commit fraud at this level, there really isn't any way to find out. In other school districts, Plano for one, who had an internal auditor, one of the complaints that the commissioner is making is we didn't have an internal auditor, that the internal auditor at Plano, it happened right under that internal auditor's nose, and the internal auditor even said there was no way for me to find out. What the commissioner is asking here is that the board violate the law. What they're suggesting is that the board should have been looking at the bank statements, that the board should have been looking at the day-to-day operations of the finance department so that the board could have discovered this. Well, as you know, that would be micromanagement. The agency regularly and repeatedly sanctions school boards for committing micromanagement violations, and that is precisely what they are suggesting that this board should have done to prevent these issues from happening. Well, we can't have it both ways. We either have a law that says we can't micromanage it, or we have a law that says we can. But right now the law says we can't, and the commissioner cannot sanction this board today for following that law. The Beaumont Independent School District has never once said there was not an issue of theft, has never once said there was not an issue with the special education department. Where we take issue today is that these issues, when you look in conjunction with the other school districts who have had far worse problems, Plano, Progresso, where the president of the school board was indicted and imprisoned for a conspiracy to steal district money, did not have the sanctions imposed upon them that the commissioners are suggesting here. And so fairness dictates that this district have an opportunity to improve with the monitor that they got. Fairness dictates that he have more than 2 weeks on the ground to do what needed to be done. And what we're going to show is that the district, when the LBB gave their 85 suggestions, it's not directives, it's suggestions, that they immediately began to work on it. And the LBB said they should have at least till January of 2015 to comply. They are well on their way to complying with all of those. The commissioner gave an order that said he wanted them to do 10 things. 10 things. They were well on their way to completing those. As a matter of fact, 3 days before the commissioner sent his April 14th letter stating that he was going to elevate Mr. Schaefer to a conservator and do the other things that we're not talking about today, 3 days before, the board president and the superintendent had a meeting with the commissioner and gave them a document that's in evidence, and I'll show you today, that showed how much they had done in the short period of time that they had already had, and how they were well on their way to complying with everything the commissioner wanted. And in that meeting, he not one time bothered to tell them, by the way, in 3 days I'm dropping a bomb on you. He should have told them then, but he didn't. He didn't because he didn't want them to know. It's a shame. All we're asking is that you tell the commissioner, boss, you have to follow the law. Thank you.